Rowena Murray, in the third chapter of her book, How to Write a Thesis, suggests that you use the structure of your proposal as a starting point to begin drafting your dissertation. So go ahead and do this, if no big changes need to be made on this proposal. I've had students, however, who still have a difficult time articulating and explaining the story of their research, despite having already written a proposal. If you're the same, here's a list of sentence starters from Murray's book to help you focus on your topic and its context. You'll end up with about 350 words for this project that will guide you in getting started. So the first statement in this list is, my research question is. An example of this research question is, does access to digital media facilitate foreign language learning? Writing your research question is the heart of your dissertation and presents the problem you are aiming to describe, analyze, and solve. It's definitely worth taking the time to clarify your research questions with your advisor and committee members. For example, what's the difference between questions number 2 and number 3? Which one is worthy of a research problem at this point in time? Sentence starter 2 begins, researchers who have looked at this subject are. So you complete it by writing out a list of authors and researchers, dates of publication maybe, or even article titles in 50 words. The third sentence starter begins, they argue that, and that's referring to the researchers in number 2, this time in 25 words. Point out the main arguments and issues in attempts to answer the research questions. This may be a difference in the nature of the problem or a difference in their approach to a solution. Clearly, in 25 words, you have no room to describe each researcher's thesis, but rather what general arguments are being made by each group or each side. Sentence starters 4 and 5 begin similarly with the expression, researcher argues that. Number 4 begins with the first group, researcher A argues that, and the second group, researcher B argues that, each in 25 words. In both 4 and 5, you begin to tease out or distinguish schools of thought or differences in theoretical frameworks or paradigms among your researchers. You write down the names of a representative researcher for each group. There may be more than 2 groups, of course, but make sure a third set of researchers truly represent a third paradigm. So, for example, in presenting ESL writing theory, most of those in the field will see 2 groups, process and product. But does a third group, a social view, represent a third theory, or does it fall under one of the 2 categories? The sixth sentence starter asks what the nature is of the argument between the 2 sides. In clearly describing the point of disagreement or contention, you narrow down the problem situation. So far, your focus has been on what previous scholars have contributed to the research story. In sentence starters 7 to 9, you begin to position your own study. So beginning with number 7, the sentence starter reads, there is still work to be done on, in 25 words. You indicate the gap in or limitations of others' research. This means other researchers' conclusions, maybe their approaches, limitations in their analysis, or in aspects that they previously ignored. This is so that you could improve the situation. So in number 8, which reads, my research is closest to that of researcher A or researcher B in that, and you explain. You state your position or your stance by aligning with one or the other group. You could simply identify a researcher whose work you're extending or one whose theory or methodology will be central to your study, and explain. In the exercise then ends with sentence starter number 9. My contribution will be, this is self-explanatory. This is where your dissertation scholarly contribution to the debate is given. So this list of sentence starters reflect the general structure of most dissertation introductions and even the literature review, chapter 2. At the end of this exercise, you will have a good outline to start writing these chapters. Just as important, completing this list will reveal gaps in your argument and point out areas that may still need updating and clarification.